going to grow a set and tell your old man where to shove it? You should have never left the tour. I laugh. I've spent a lot of years wishing I'd had the courage to tell off my dad and keep riding broncs. But the more time that's passed, the easier it's become to accept. My daughter Josephine sure as hell has a better, more stable life here. And all it takes is seeing her hardly present mama blow through town every 6 months or so to hammer that in. Plus, it's been a decade since I stepped out of the rodeo spotlight, and I'm pretty sure the statute of limitations on my stepping back in has long passed. Not to mention, I wouldn't dream of shaking up Joey's life like that. My daughter is my priority. Always. Chase is still a kid at heart, however, and I'm about as well off wasting my breath on detailed explanations with him as I'd be slicing my own throat. No, to get him off my ass, I simply have to dish the shit-talking back just as hard as he serves it. I don't know, I retort with a sly grin. Maybe I'll tell him when you tell yours you're out here in the middle of the night riding next year's crop of broncs that aren't supposed to have ever been rode before. Shit, Chase snorts, spewing some of his beer all over his shirt. I guess I'll just have to wait and see you in hell then. My dad catches wind we're out here, and all 4 of us will be in the back of a cop car. And I don't know about Cutter and Lynn, but I know for a fact you and I aren't that fond of the law. He adds as he jumps down off the fence and crushes the mostly empty beer can, tossing it to the side. You mean the law isn't that fond of us? I correct. You'd think the way Chase talks, we're still wild, 20-year-old stallions with something to prove. But I'm 36. I'm a responsible grown-ass adult now, with a daughter to think about when I make decisions. But back when I was younger, I made a lot of questionable choices and partook in a number of dangerous exploits. The sheriff knows my first name intimately, and Chase Walker was right there with me more than a time or two. Hell, that's part of the reason why my dad didn't want me to stay on the rodeo tour. There was always some sort of trouble, and like it or not, I had a real way of finding it. It's also part of the reason Joey's mama Ann and I weren't meant for the long haul. I grew up. She didn't. In fact, she's still following the rodeo circuit just like she was when we first met. Most likely, drinking and partying and knocking boots with a new guy every weekend. And the only feelings I have about that revolve around our daughter, and wishing Joey didn't have to pay the price for her mama's immaturity. Yeah, I guess you're right, Chase agrees. Anytime I see Sheriff Laycliffe in the diner, he gives me more than a small amount of stink eye. Pretty sure he'd be happier if the tour ran year-long and I never came back home. I don't bother mentioning that at 35 years old pretty soon, he's going to age out of the rodeo lifestyle anyway. Or that he should probably start trying to make a better impression now if he plans on coming back to Hollow Rock full-time. But nights like this aren't the time for serious talks of that sort. I'll reserve the call to reality for an occasion with less company and harder liquor. Nights like these are meant for laughing, cutting up, and shit-talking, which I have no problem doing. Well, the sheriff isn't the only one who prefers not to look at your ugly mug. I smirk. Frankly, I'm thankful for the low-light conditions tonight. Fuck you, Jameson, Chase crows, using my last name for added emphasis. Lynn and Cutter snicker from their spots on the top of the fence rail across the paddock. You're sure doing a lot of shit-talking for a guy who hasn't gotten on a bronc yet. Cut Lynn and I have all been on a couple tonight. What are you, scared? I roll my eyes at his baiting and take a swig from my can of Coors. I haven't been on a bronc because I'm not an idiot. I've got responsibilities to go back to, unlike the rest of you. A ranch to run, a daughter to raise, that sort of thing. Hey! Cutter yells offended, although I'm sure it's on a very shallow, superficial level. There's still a smile on his face and a beer in his hand, and if he'd really taken issue with what I'd said, he'd have already been off the fence and headed my direction at full speed. That's the thing about most of us cowboys. We're hot-headed. Crazy, wild, hair-trigger type of people. If we weren't, we probably wouldn't get on the backs of angry 1,000-pound-plus animals every chance we got. Come on, Lynn taunts. All I hear every night on the road is the legend of former bronc rider Rhett Jameson. How unbelievably good he is. How natural his fucking seat seems. How I'll never live up to his record. How the women wet their panties for him every time he stepped into the ring. I mean, I'm finally in the old...